insightful and inspiring moments. Inside Pages is brought to you by Appointed Time Printing Limited.
Hello, it's the 22nd of May 2021. Good morning and welcome to Inside Pages. I'm FRANCISCA, KAKRA, FORSON. Our topic for today will be looking at the Electoral Commission's proposals, Ghana's electoral process. EC has proposed some reforms after the 2020 election assessment, and the NDC has a counter proposal. I'll introduce my guests in a bit, but what you can do is follow the conversation. We'll be streaming live on Facebook at Metro TV Ghana. On Twitter, it's at Metro TV GH. And you can send a WhatsApp message to 054-708-6939. Please do not call the number, just send your message. And for all your messages, use the hashtag Inside Pages. Inside Pages is brought to you by Appointed Time Limited. We'll be right back after this break.
Need a little help? Nobody does it better. At UCS Facility Management, we give you the best in janitorial services, which include high-rise window cleaning, office cleaning, post-construction cleaning, facade washing, deep cleaning, carpet cleaning, swimming pool cleaning, and event janitorial services. Locate us at Jowolu, JA Plant Pool premises, or call us on 0501-666-322 or 0203-299-212 or 0203-299-234. UCS, your property is under our care.
As a mother and wife, my priority is making sure my family is protected at all times. That is why I never forget to give my angel a Flora disposable handkerchief to keep germs and sweat at bay. When Habi is out in the fields, I'm rest assured of Flora coming in handy anytime he needs it. Even when my daughter Na is out late, I am confident Flora disposable handkerchief will be close enough to save the moment. Flora disposable handkerchiefs are my go-to disposable handkerchiefs any day, anytime, and everywhere. Flora disposable handkerchiefs is affordable and handy. Flora, better than cloth handkerchiefs. Flora is a product of Delta Paper Mill Limited. For inquiries and bulk purchases, call 0243 033 033.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yeah.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always drink fresh, natural, mix, mineral, water.
You still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back to Inside Pages. Before we get into the conversation about the electoral reforms and the responses from some of the political parties, let's get the latest updates from the Metro Newsroom.
It was a calm and orderly scene at the Ghana International Press Center. The exercise delayed by an hour to start at 10 a.m. due to some technical challenges. The vaccination cards were exchanged for the new one with enhanced security features.
The only thing I see is the sticker. And I'm told that once it's scanned, anywhere in the world, they'll see that, yes, you have been vaccinated against the COVID-19.
Travel a lot, and I don't want a situation where I will get to a country, maybe for a seminar or something, and I'll be held at the airport or turned back because I haven't taken the shot. We all know how devastating the COVID has been, and we have to keep safe and keep others around us to safe. So I decided to take the jab first in, to keep safe, and also in case I had a chance of traveling as a journalist, I will be safe to go.
Roland Afilmoni is the Ghana Journalists Association president.
On religious, it is in your own interest to take the vaccination, so that as a nation, we will collectively win the fight against COVID-19.
This is the Osu Maternity Government Hospital. Our cameras were not allowed in, but off-camera, persons who had come to get vaccinated were furious that the process was at a snail's pace. It's 2 p.m. at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. A public health officer, Scholastica Derry, is on standby to ensure discipline.
We have done about 230. Oh, there was a lot of stress here. A lot of people. Before 7 o'clock, this place was full. It seems everybody is anxious to take the vaccine the first day because of the delay we had in the country. But we are assuring everybody that within the age range they gave, if you took your vaccine on the 2nd of March to 9th of March, you will be given your shots. So that's why we are also doing it within 1 week period. But everybody wants to take the vaccine today, and it's not possible. So we are saying that gradually, everybody will be catered for. But today being the first day, there's a lot of pressure.
So the facility has been supplied enough vaccines for the stipulated time frame.
But today we are giving 400 doses. And even as at now, we still have excess. And everybody will get. Who should come? The numbers will, but we'll be able to take care of them. Even up to 8 o'clock we will work.
The exercise ends on May 26. On Wednesday, President Akufo-Addo held a meeting with the president of the European Investment Bank as part of his official visit to Belgium. The €150 million facility, according to the European Investment Bank chief, is the largest facility provided by his outfit for the establishment of a development bank in Africa or for any project on the continent. Speaking at the signing ceremony, President Akufo-Addo noted that the Development Bank Ghana will ensure the rapid economic transformation of Ghana.
I'm happy that we have been able today to arrive at this ceremony. The bank is going to play a very important part in the rapid economic development of our country. We want to restructure the Ghanaian economy, transform it. It has been a traditional African economy, largely raw material-based exporting economy, and we're looking to be an economy that places much greater emphasis on value addition activities. We see this bank as one that is going to play a pivotal role for us in defining that future.
He stressed that the provision of this facility signals the determination of Ghana to continue partnering with the EU to finance other projects in the country.
What has been done for us today is something that we value very much, and we want to assure you that the money that you're going to put into the bank, that money is going to be used very, very, very well, very professionally. The design of the bank, which has been on the drawing board for the last 2 years, I believe is something that has met with your approval, and that is why you're making this investment. And to reassure you that apart from the design, the implementation of what we're going to do with the money and with the bank itself will also satisfy the highest standards of scrutiny as well as best practice.
Charles Edubuayan is Minister of State Designate for Finance.
The government of Ghana recognizes the importance of a substantial allocation of development capital to critical economic sectors at sustainable interest rates and longer terms. Accordingly, there has been a heightened need to establish the Development Bank of Ghana. The vision for DBG is guided by the history of KFW, which has been an essential ingredient of the German post-World War II recovery experience.
Dr. Huayo, on his part, was confident that the establishment of the Development Bank Ghana will help unlock opportunities for growth in Ghana, as well as assist in the rapid recovery of the economy from the ravages of COVID-19.
At least today, to accompany you in realizing your vision for Ghana's new development bank and to help enhance its impact. So I'm pleased to sign, together with the Foreign Minister, the EIB's 170 million euro support for the ambitious Development Bank Ghana. This represents the EU Bank's largest ever engagement in Ghana, the largest ever EIB support to the National Promotional Bank in Africa. We look really forward to seeing this institution operational already over the next few weeks, as confirmed recently by Minister Ofori Atta.
You know, the interesting thing is this. If I, as an individual, went to the Bank of Ghana today, and I said I wanted to set up a bank, they would say, okay, where's your capital from? And I said, oh, I'd gone to borrow it. I'll be disqualified. I must own the money that I am putting at risk. But here, it seems like because it is the government, they can do something that they won't allow me as an individual to do. If I went outside and borrowed 170 million to come and set up a bank here, the government will say you don't own the money.
I quote, a failure on the part of successive governments to improve the lives of Ghanaians. I truly believe we cannot ensure exceptional leadership without a collective effort from all of us. So I commend the youth for calling on government and leaders to be at their best. This shows the patriotism of Ghanaian youth, echoing the President's call to be a citizen and not a spectator. You have elected us to solve the problems that face this country. We will continue to work with you and other stakeholders to do just that.
The minister also added that his ministry is fast-tracking the implementation of the $200 million Jobs and Skills Program to enhance job creation.
We are fast-tracking the implementation of the $200 million Jobs and Skills Program and Economic Transformation Program to enhance job creation significantly. This intervention is designed to facilitate new and expanded private sector businesses to employ more people. This, we believe, is a more sustainable way to rebuild this economy instead of expanding government employment schemes.
Ken Ofori-Atta further said his ministry is working to ensure availability of potable water in the urban areas.
First, I'm working with the Minister for Water and Sanitation to immediately ensure potable water to areas of critical need. Second, I'm working with the Ministers of Roads and Highways. At its minimum, we should ensure social justice and social mobility for all Ghanaians. At our best, we should open for all Ghanaians an economic system under which each citizen shall be guaranteed the opportunity to show the best in him or her. So let us rise up and build together. Let us fix this together. and save lives for our country.
The minister pledged commitment to working to bring about an economic system under which each citizen will be guaranteed the opportunity to show the best in him or her. He suggested that the current angst about the standard of living has been influenced by the coronavirus pandemic. The minister admitted that because of the pandemic, the Akufo-Addo administration had been stretched to the seams.
Many of the students at the Miracle Senior High School were in a state of shock, while others wept uncontrollably when the news of the suicide by Letitia Trepenamang got to them. The sad incident, according to the school authorities, occurred around 7:30 p.m. on Monday, May 17, 2021, at the time when some students were having Bible studies at the school auditorium. Though reasons for her action is still unknown, information gathered from her friends indicated that the deceased was seen looking sad and moody before the incident occurred. A classmate of the deceased, who was her closest friend, narrated that though she noticed sudden changes in the deceased's attitude, she never suspected that it would get to a level where she would commit suicide.
Obia fad na plastic so ko dware ntine na machine uniform e wo pipe side ana no kwa dware ho nto ko dware we obehye ne ho kwa pie imi dware mi sia ne kwan so na me se o tere na wo kwan o se tere me ba ana oba church wa oba church pie betina ne se ana so no bi se on fa scarf from no na ni pande scarf na no san bai nti nyina ya bai ne ye ko didi ana mo se edwane ne ready nti ma church wi a Yapon church, yeah, by one cup on a maybe say, I then a later master and who so we have no so by a be a deacon. See, your coy, Madame Fremus and a church, and I am a church, and or mobile and I am a church, and Sierra or girl back her friend Kazia, not seeing him. When himself or my growing muna or more to my friend is serious, no sign to see him, that's about son of Kumana or Quinity. Mamma Kazia pie. No, say in PM machine. Tini PM say, Madam, please come and see. Madam so by one more bien raho. The friend say, oh, hang go. Your friend Letitia, I'm training you. But or more raho na oja letter ho.
The house mistress of the Miracle Senior High School, Giftia Champon, confirmed the incident.
50 to 710. Our brother, school for me now. That's almost a monko church auditorium. And for Bible studies. The boys even they didn't go to the other straight to the dining hall. Two someone may say, okay, me boy Janana de Alpha. And that's almost 13. Madame Letitia said, then I hear Letitia. The moment we can say, I see an assassin. Then we can call dining hall. Going to go inside the Ahoma, I send a corner.
The body of Letitia Trepenamang has since been deposited at the Sunyani Municipal Hospital mortuary pending autopsy.
So just a bit of clarity there on the last story. We understand that it's an alleged suicide. That's yet to be proven, and the family of the deceased are challenging the claim of suicide. So we need to put that disclaimer there. Right now, though, let's turn our attention to Ghana Movement, and this is an interesting bit regarding the Affirmative Action Bill.
Today, I can assure you, the bill which seeks to attain 50-50 representation for men and women in Parliament over time is before the Cabinet for validation. We shall give it the priority attention it deserves to ensure its passage before the end of the year. The executive urgently wants it passed, and our lawmakers are equally eager to make this happen.
A glimmer of hope for many women who have over the years pushed for the equal representation of men and women in governance and related positions of power and decision-making in the country.
It's very reassuring that a bill that has been lying there unattended to for such a long time has gained some attention at the top, and especially if the Speaker of Parliament says that it's going to be passed by the end of the year. That's talking about 7 months from now. I think it's very refreshing.
Well, yes, the law may be passed, but let it not remain window dressing. Let the actions of the people actually be interested in changing things and putting more women in leadership.
Currently, there are 40 women in Ghana's parliament, placing Ghana 141st in the world in terms of women's representation in the Legislative House and 36th in Africa. Ghana's Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, believes that giving women the needed push will see to the rapid development of the country. But over the years, the processes to getting the bill passed has stalled due to the lack of commitment on the part of political actors.
I just told you, Cabinet will have to validate it before it's brought to Parliament. We are following some old British practice where legislation before Parliament dies with the Parliament. And so all the bills they put before us, immediately we end a 4-year term. The bills also end a 4-year term. I don't know where this is coming from. And therefore, they have to go back, I'm told, to the new government, even if it is not a new government, to relook at it, revise it, and then bring it back. And you know the democratic, bureaucratic inertia. It takes a long time before it comes back to Parliament. And when it comes back to Parliament, because we are always cap in hand, doing lala sulala, begging around, more priority is placed on approving loans than passing bills.
Other advocates want financial support to back the legislation.
In terms of the affirmative action bill, we need to get angrier, we need to do mass mobilization, and we really need to support with finance, with cash.
So within that system, there has to be people who support women as they stand out, as they speak maybe and falter and fumble, and we hold one another so that we can, stand firm on our feet.
The Speaker of Parliament gave an assurance that the House will continue to strengthen partnerships with civil society groups to ensure the speedy passage of the bill.
Okay, time now for a breather. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Do not drop that winners. The fight is still on. Constant disinfection is still very pivotal in the fight against COVID-19. Call an expert today on 020-300-4055 or 050-126-5426 to ensure your space is disinfected.
Lawful wedded wife to having to hold from this day forward. I do.
I knew it.
How much drama can you enjoy? See it feely with HD Plus. Get the best companion for your HD TV with HD Plus. Dial *879# to activate and enjoy the first 2 months for free.
Welcome back to Inside Pages. So, after 2 days, the Electoral Commission assessed the 2020 election and they came up with some reforms. What they did was to look at what they called successes, which they acknowledged and credited themselves when they also highlighted some challenges. And in the end, they brought out about 4 reforms, which they will be discussing with the political parties. And the political parties are already reacting to that. We know the NDC has put up what they call a counter proposal to the Electoral Commission. We can now turn to the video wall and look at the proposals from the Electoral Commission. Yes. So the first proposal is that we propose closing the polls at 3 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. In 2019, we announced our decision to close the polls at 3 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. in the 2020 elections. Nonetheless, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic and the stringent and necessarily time-consuming safety protocols we instituted at our polling stations, we were compelled to put this proposal on hold over the past months. However, this proposal has resurfaced from various sections of the public, and indeed, our experience from the 2020 elections has revealed that it is a workable proposal, as by 1 p.m., most polling stations were empty, suggesting that this is a workable proposal. Therefore, this is a reform we intend to put forward. So that's coming from the Electoral Commission. And the response from the NDC, the Opposition National Democratic Congress, is that the NDC finds the proposal by the Jean Mensah-led EC to change the closing time of polls from 5 p.m. to 3 p.m. in 2024 baffling and mind-boggling. Since the 1992 elections, polls have always closed at 5 p.m. This has worked perfectly without any challenges whatsoever. It therefore beggars belief that the EC would want to change this time-tested arrangement and go for a poorly thought-through alternative, which is bound to disenfranchise eligible voters and create needless problems for our electoral system. Let's look at the second proposal from the Electoral Commission. Again, they propose to do away with the system of periodic nationwide registration exercises and institute an all-round system where citizens who turn 18 or persons who have not previously registered may visit any district office with their Ghana card or passport and register as voters. This will help do away with nationwide registration exercises and go a long way to reducing the cost of the elections. Well, the response from the NDC is that they wish to remind the Electoral Commission that the all-round continuous registration of eligible voters is not new. The law requires the Commission to put in place mechanisms to ensure that at any time the citizens become eligible to vote, they can be registered. Next proposal. Again, we propose to do away with the system of periodic nationwide exercises and institute an all-round system where citizens who turn 18 or... Okay, so I think I've read this. So I'll look at the proposal from the National Democratic Congress. Okay, so the NDC is saying the proposal by EC to have a year-round exhibition is a laudable idea, but cannot be a substitute for the periodic exhibition exercise of the voters' register that is normally done after voter registration. This is simply because the voter exhibition exercise is not only intended to afford voters the opportunity to verify and confirm their details, but to also A, ensure ineligible restraints, into bracket minors and foreigners, are challenged and removed from the register. B, help clean the names of dead people from the register. And C, afford voters the opportunity to confirm their captured biometric features. The next one. Yes, so This says that we propose to build further efficiency into our collation process by focusing on data entry only at the Constituency Collation Center. The entry points for data capturing into the system will be at the Constituency Collation Center. The data, i.e. constituency collation results, will be made available to all stakeholders at the regional and national levels. Flowing from the data captured at the Constituency Collation Center, the system will generate regional and national reports without further entry at any of those levels. By adopting the system, the problem of minor inaccuracies with the collation process and unnecessary delays will be reduced significantly. Well, that's the EC, and the NDC says the proposal to have the entry point of data done only at constituency collation centers will introduce another opportunity for rigging through hacking and other means of manipulation of the results. The way to build further efficiencies into the collation process and eliminate inaccuracies is to hire and train competent EC staff to ensure accurate data entry and collation, and not to throw away the time-tested practice of collation at the national level. So I think that is it. But we also want to look at another angle to this conversation. You know, the NDC has suggested that the minority parties or the smaller political parties not have the same vote as the major parties. Everybody at IPAC has a vote, and which is one vote, and they believe that that's not equitable. But we want to understand the relevance of these parties. We know that the two major parties, that's the NDC and the MPP, for years now have been have dominated our political space and the governance space. So it's either Ghana votes for NDC or NPP. CPP for some time in the past had been very, very relevant and had a few seats. So we look at 2008. 2008, we had John Atta Mills for the NDC, Akufo-Addo for the NPP, and Pa Kwesi Indom for the CPP. That was then. The first round of elections, NDC polled about 4 million votes, constituting 47.92%. In the second round of voting, they polled 4.5 million votes. That's about 50%. The MPP polled 4.1 million votes in the first round, constituting 49%. And in the second round, they polled 4.4 million votes. That's 49.7%. And the CPP in 2008 polled 113,494, constituting 1.34%. Let's look at the next slide. So let's come to 2012. And in 2012, the NDC's John Dramani Mahama polled 5.5 million votes, constituting 50.7%. Akufo-Addo of the MPP polled 5.2 million votes, 47.7%. And Papa Kwesi Indom dropped, but this time he was with the Progressive People's Party. He dropped to 64,000. Well, with the Progressive People's Party, he polled 64,362, and that's 0.59%. I would have wanted to see what the CPP polled, but we can move on to the next slide. If I have that, I'll bring that to you. Yes, let's look at 2016. So 2016, let's focus on the poll. So Akufo-Addo, 5.7 million votes, 53% or 53.7%. John Dramani Mahama, 2016, 4.7 million votes, 44%. Papa Kwesi Indom of the Progressive People's Party seemed to have gained some votes. We saw about 60-something thousand to 106,092, making 0.99%. Now, the CPP put up Ivor Green Street, and they had about 25,552 votes, constituting 0.24. So pay attention to how the fortunes of the smaller parties may be dwindling, maybe except for PPP, may be dwindling, but particularly the CPP. Let's look at the next slide. Yeah, so let's look at the 2020 elections, and you can see a drop there for the smaller parties, but Akufo-Addo, 6.7 million, John Dramani Mahama, 6.2 million. The two parties seems to be largely sharing the percentage points. Now, for Ghana Union Movement, another smaller party led by Christian Kwabena Andrews, he polled 105,548. That's 0.8 0%. And Ivor Greenstreet of the CPP polled 12,200 votes, and that constitutes what, 0.09%. So you can see that the CPP has dropped or keeps dropping to the point that GUM, or the Ghana Union Movement, placed third in the 2020 election. So the question is, what happened to the CPP and the PPP? PPP didn't pop up. Okay, so this perhaps is the case that the NDC is trying to make regarding the relevance or the impact or influence of the smaller political parties. We'll look at our guest coming up right after this break. Okay, welcome back to Inside Pages. Now let's settle for our conversation. I'll introduce my guest to you. We'll be joined by Alhaji Haruna Rashid. He's the Director of Research for the National Democratic Congress. We'll also be joined by Dr. Kojo Asante, Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the Center for Democratic Development. Yabuabeng Asamoah is Director of Communications, MPP. Dr. Sribo Kweku is Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission. And Nana Frimpoma Sapong is the Chairperson and Leader of the Convention People's Party, CPP. I do believe we have Mr. Yabuabeng Asamoah on the phone lines. If we do, good morning to you and thanks for joining us. Hope you are well, sir.
Very well. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you, too, for joining us. I'll go straight and ask what the MPP's reaction is to the reforms that the Electoral Commission is proposing or has proposed.
I think it's good. It's based on the practice of before. Where we are in electoral processes now is a product of view and consistent retooling. And they are very good to the extent that they are sharpening the boundaries. They are not opening any new boundaries that ought to threaten anybody. What is happening already is what they want to enhance and improve. And if we interrogate it further, I think it's very useful. If you ask me to go ahead, I'll look at a few things.
Please go ahead.
Very well. First of all, let me put in right off the beginning. It's difficult to debate the NDC when they refuse to go to the IPAC meetings. I don't know whether that's a permanent boycott or temporary boycott, but they're a legitimate political party. They have a right to policy formulation, mobilization, execution of their interest if they find favor. But they need to move along the rest of the nation where electoral reforms are concerned, because otherwise they become a burden for the rest of us who want to be protected. For example, the government of Ghana, for the first time ever, has funded the entire election by itself. That is a major matter. And yet, the NDC blew away this election like that. Now, you talk about continuous registration and that time-tested methods of mass registration, mass execution are such that they cannot be tampered with because they've served so far. Those methods are the subject of reform over the years. We reform, that's why we are there. So now, if you have a database for coalition, there is no reason why the EC can patch you in the assessment so that whatever they do will reflect simultaneously in your technology center. What technologies are the NDC are they prepared for it? Because if the Ghana card is going to have the register of births and deaths on it, and a child's details will be captured at birth, And the Electoral Commission's card is also on the Ghana card, which is linked to the Constituency Coalition. The MPP, under the leadership of Mr. Anochi, has a modern coalition center, which captures input from Constituency Coalition Center. And it is able to aggregate everything automatically in parallel to the EC. And we are able, when our candidate is winning or losing, well, sometimes before the EC, from the same results that are being generated. So, does the NDC have a credible coalition center? What is the state of the? Why are they not in a position to help us all improve going forward so that we can all use technology to patch into the EC and reduce contact? This time, with the new register, they were complaining about mass mobilization for fear of COVID. And now they are still insisting on mass registration. Next time, it could be something worse. Today is COVID. Next time, we may not be able to congregate at all. So
Mr. Samoa, Mr. Samoa, sorry to butt in, but I want to put their proposals or their counter proposals to you. Whether or not you entirely disagree with some of the things that they're saying. So, for instance, point one that the NDC makes is that there's the need for IPAC to have legal backing so that the meetings and discussions and agreements at the IPAC level will be binding on the Electoral Commission. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I can't agree with it because it's an old conversation and we have to explore the boundaries of that with the constitutional provision that the EC is not bound operationally by any organization or action or otherwise. Would legislate an IPAC which in it come above the EC's own processes be lawful in the current constitutional? If they want to push that argument, they need to address the constitutional provision and let us understand what they understand by operational and financial independence. It's a constitutional requirement. So, IPAC is advisory.
Yes.
All you have to do is to respect it. The NDC doesn't respect IPAC. They refuse to go to meeting. And then they use the minutes of the meeting they refuse to go to criticize. It's wrong. It's a voluntary institution, but it has heavy weight, its credibility in terms of who.
Very well.
A nice way of going around the law. Let me look at that matter that they raised. And I think that matter too, sincerely, is not fair to the EC. The EC must necessarily accept that they went to court and they didn't have any proof all the allegations. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, when they had their press conference, they had a long list of so-called damning the EC's brilliant work when they couldn't prove any of it in court. It is not fair.
Let's look at another proposal from the EC that this concerns the voting formula at IPAC. Not from the EC, I mean the NDC. So this is one of the things Mr. Efri said in his press conference, that the EC should adopt an equitable voting formula for the political parties. You are one of the two dominant political parties. He says not every political party should have one vote. Do you agree?
They are in denial. They are seeking votes in building an IPAC as an alternative to the EC. They are in denial. The EC doesn't even have convened IPAC to begin with. It convenes IPAC as an administrative body. Whatever happens within IPAC is for the attack of the EC. It's not binding. So if the NDC is credible as a political party, comes there and presents solid proposals, they'll be accepted. The so-called minor party will follow through. The NDC prides itself on being the instigator of the best electoral reforms in the country so far. The NDC hasn't distinguished itself with reforms. And the problem is not IPAC. The problem is their own attitude. They are refusing to participate. They are refusing to interrogate reforms objectively because they think that it will not serve their interest. And therefore, it is important.
How about
accept and appreciate the true role of IPAC?
How about two other concerns about the rejected ballots as well as arithmetic errors that were recorded in the 2020 elections? Are these of concern to the NPP?
The rejected ballots is a clear concern. At this time in our election, we'll be having rejected ballots in excess of figures. I think we all must work towards that. As for the changes in figures, I'm surprised that it is that because when the EC made a pronouncement on the 9th December, not all the results were in, and they stated it. So the figures they used were only provisional. And then subsequently, when the figures came in from the Shima and South, they changed them. They changed it. If you need it. Again, computational errors, if they choose to call it that, each region, the coalition will not have a whole constraint. So later on, when they realize, again, that changed the national figure. And finally, there were about 4 constituencies in Greater Accra where they did the accounting properly. And again, very like, these are objective, innocent methods, the mathematics of which does not change the overall result. So any experienced party aware of getting the minimum rate, irregularities and otherwise, including NDC, which benefited in 2012-2013. Look at the challenge we put up in 2012-2013, including ghost policy, all manner of financing. The court laid down the basic principle. You have to prove total these infractions are such that they will impact the ultimate result. Because that result is a wish expressed by the people's bank. You don't take that away. You need to justify. So I agree with them on the responsibilities, but we must sit together and deal. They cannot ride a high and mighty horse and pretend that they are in charge of their game when they are not engaging anybody else. Their view cannot be the final view. Our view cannot be the final view. But we can agree with the EC that these are issues. For example, 3 o'clock closing. In the last election, there were many police voting by 12. Why? Because the EC have put in measures to ensure that everybody voted. And what happened? The equipment was very good. There were very few challenges. Every police station was between 500 and 700. Before voter turnaround was a few seconds. Identification systems, the equipment was robust. They came in, they voted, and then left.
Mr. Samuel, will this 3 p.m. Closing time for voting not be on a certain generalized basis, given that there are sometimes long queues during elections for whatever reason? It could be weather constraints, it could be because of materials arriving late, or because of the use of technology, there might be some difficulty, in which time closing polls at 3 p.m. will not afford everybody the time to vote. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Boabea Samoa. Okay, I think we've lost Mr. Boabea Samoa on the line, but he is the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, the governing New Patriotic Party, and he was reacting to the proposed reforms by the Electoral Commission, as well as the counter proposals or the reaction from the opposition NDC. I think a point of agreement is the concern of rejected ballots, which the EC itself notes as a challenge. We'll try and get him back on the line. What I want us to do is to go through the EC's assessment, and we'll get our other guests on the line as well to have that conversation. We'll also be joined by the NDC's Director of Research, Alhaji Haruna Rashid, as well as the Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Sribo Kwaku. I have a video of his, but before I play that, let me take you through, let me do a summary of the Electoral Commission's assessment of the 2020 elections. Yes, so the first thing that the Electoral Commission talks about is that there were successes and there were challenges. Successes which must be celebrated, and they categorize or list these successes. The first of which is that it took the Electoral Commission, less than 6 months to conduct presidential and parliamentary elections. Typically, they say this would take 2 years to undertake. So from the introduction of the new biometric voter management system, comprising new biometric verification and registration devices and software, through to the replacement of the entire voters' register to the election day, it took the Commission 6 months from the 30th of June to the 7th of December to successfully implement all these processes. The second thing they want to celebrate is the fact that they conducted an elections in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic and its uncertainties. The EC says, as a country, we were able to undertake all our electoral processes, from the preparation of a brand new register with over 17 million persons, and this was in 38 days, to exhibition of register, to the filling of nominations, to election day activities without the spread of COVID-19 virus. Quickly, before I go back to Yabuabin, the EC also talk about the turnout, not massive, but an improvement in the turnout. 2020 saw 79% turnout as compared to 67% in 2016. They also talk about reducing the costs or the expenditure for the elections, and also saving some money for the country. But let's go back to Mr. Yabuabin Asamoah. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Yabuabin Asamoah, kindly wrap up on your reaction to the NDC so that we proceed to look at the Electoral Commission's assessment of the 2020 elections.
Very well. I'll quickly close on the 3 o'clock.
Yes, please.
I think with improved equipment, faster voting turnaround time, 3 o'clock would give us the opportunity to count for credibility.
Okay.
And also to support the coalition processes themselves. I mean, you go to a coalition center, constituency coalition center, and they are waiting for every ballot box to come in from across the constituency. Sometimes the last day after 9 p.m.
Okay.
Or if there's a little tension, it blows up. So 3 o'clock, everybody would have voted too late, or anybody in the queue at 3 is still allowed to vote as they usually do, and then it gives us enough room for objective and transparent coalition.
Okay, now let's look at what the EC has put together, their assessment of the 2020 elections. So I was trying to earlier do a bit of a summary where they talk about their successes, looking at the timeliness, using 6 months to conduct presidential and parliamentary elections. They also look at how they were able to do that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, observing the protocols, as they say. They talk about the voter turnout and improvement from 2016. So that's about from 67% to 79% for the 2020 elections. They say that long queues were reduced or there were none at all. They talk about how, a historic achievement, what they say, the government of Ghana financed the elections in its totality, and that there was no assistance from any donor. They also talk about using technology to help citizenry check their registration details, and that they saved Ghana $90 million, a whopping $90 million in the management of the elections. What do you make of this successes, or these successes, as the Electoral Commission titles them?
I think they are phenomenal. These are phenomenal achievements in the context of election under the Fourth Republic. Phenomenal. First of all, government of Ghana pays of everything. It hasn't happened before. Secondly, you have a resisted voter registration process heavily resisted at the cost of national peace of mind. And then COVID hits, it's suspended, and then they still do it in 38 days, including verification, voting, and declaration, all within 6 months. In a period where COVID is being restrained importation of materials. Because where you acquire your materials from, they are in COVID. And there's no commerce. There's no movement back and forth. And yet, in spite of that international challenge, the institution is able to do 6 months of all this. Not only that, they prevented an explosion in COVID. We queued up to register. We queued up to exhibit and look at our details. And we queued up to vote. In spite of all these mass queuings, they managed to help us control COVID. Phenomenal. And the savings. If anybody doubts the savings, let's interrogate them. But that they have been saving is what the institution has said. And for me, that is huge, coupled with the president, the republic financing everything.
Mr. Boabiasamoah, let me play the devil's advocate a bit. Would you have had the same reaction if you were in opposition?
Have what?
Would you have had the same reaction to the
survival of the major party? The survival of goal, the revolving door to the president, depends on all of us making the EC credible. So it doesn't depend on your position, whether you're in opposition or otherwise. If that's what is happening so far, well, it's unfortunate. That's why we must all impact and build IPAC. So engage the EC constructively in an informal environment and yet have them. They are critical to our future. Today is the MPP with a certain leadership. Tomorrow it will be the MPP with a different leadership. The NDC will have a different leadership. Those leaderships are sustainable because the EC is there to give us fair opportunity.
Okay, can you give us a hint about this 100% GOG funding of the elections? Historical, the EC says. A hint as to whether or not that will become the practice moving forward.
In terms of government full financing of elections,
yes,
it should be. I would have even thought that having achieved it in COVID time with restrained severe limitations on revenue, I think we should make it a standard now and insist that governments continue to finance our elections. That's the mark of our democracy. If others drag down our democracy because we are paying for it, we will not have anything to say. But if we are paying for it, we can set our own standards. We can establish our own strength in the democracy marketplace.
Okay. Now, let's look at the challenges, what the Electoral Commission in its assessment calls challenges. Rejected ballots, manual verification, minors and foreigners in being encouraged to vote or still within our voters register, and also the election violence. You've already touched on rejected ballots, which was something the NDC had also mentioned. But concerning the issue of minors and foreigners voting, I want to quote something from the EC. The EC says, very often fingers are pointed in our direction as if to say that the Commission registered the minors and foreigners, but we need to take the time to identify the root cause of this problem. We must ask ourselves, and they say in local parlance, na who cause So this sort of points the fingers at the political parties and significantly the NDC and the MPP. How do you react to that?
Yes. I think some of the challenges are not of the institutions making, and they are out of the control of the EC to some extent. I think the biggest challenge is not it there. And that challenge is credibility on all fronts. We need to have everybody respect the EC for what they are. And the longer they go on and deliver quality elections, the more we all respect. For example, if we have a very rigorous voter identification and registration process, it will be difficult for minors and foreigners involved. Because if we are on a Ghana database and a Ghanaian born in Ghana under lawful means gets a certificate immediately, which is entered on data that is available to the EC, then there's no point later complaining that a foreigner came or somebody was underage. But if you insist on manual registration, then funny things will happen with political parties desperate for power. So these are matters that can be dealt going forward. But I am worried about the spoiled ballot. I am genuinely worried. Because why would so many people make a mistake? Is it a political statement or a technical problem? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
One cannot tell me whether spoiled ballots is a political statement or a technical problem. And so we have to wait, because somebody could go in there and deliberately vote against their own party or against the other party, or determine that they are neutral and for mischief purposes, they are damaging the ballot. It is possible. That spoiled ballots are from self-intent.
But what about, I get the point about the rejected ballots, but what about the issue concerning minors and foreigners inside the voters' register, or being encouraged to vote? What can the political parties do beyond the EC? What can the political parties do to, reduce that or clear that up?
I think the political parties should help the EC to move onto a full technology platform where there will be continuous registration linked to the Ghana card births and deaths registry. Because the births and deaths registry is going onto the Ghana card, which means that if a child is born, it goes automatically onto the EC platform, which will also be part of the Ghana card. If we are bold enough to move in that direction, it will be difficult for a minor who is not ready to vote, because the technology itself will pop you up when you are at the right age. And if you attempt to go and vote, the technology, because you are in a large database, will show you up as not ready to vote. And ideally, foreigners may not be able to get on because they're not born here, or if they are born here, they'll be subject to the rules of citizenship right from the beginning. Anyone who tries to enter as an adult will have to prove by law that they are Ghanaian voted. You see? But when you have mass registration that we have now, where parties are mobilizing people to come and register, it's very difficult for the EC without data to ascertain the minor and who is a foreigner. So a technology platform linked to the births and deaths, and with a common database for the EC, the political parties able to access that platform, as well as the births and deaths registry, will go a long way to reduce the incidence of minors and foreigners in the register.
Your government is in power, or your party is in government and in power. Is this something that the Akufo-Addo-led administration will be interested in investing in and pushing?
Right from the beginning. When the government came to power in 2017, they started bringing together all the institutions who were issuing cards onto one card, which is the Ghana. So there's a possibility that the Ghana card will hold your driver license, your health, or your card, that's your pension card, and all the other cards that we have been using. And the question was whether or not the Electoral Commission, which is entitled to conduct elections, could be compelled to join such a database. Some argue that it is too independent operationally to go on board. But what the argument is missing is that the Constitution does not specify issuance of ID cards. It says the EC should conduct the elections and provide a record, keep a database, whatever. Is it a question that that database has to be independent of every other database before it's credible as a voter roll? If not, then I am of the view that the process that has started, where we are aggregating all the cards onto Ghana cards and one database, should also serve the EC well. So the EC come to terms with the fact that shared data is control, operational. Once you have that, then you are in a position to be able to sync data across and help identify more clearly. Like I'm saying, now we are moving to the birth and death registry being put on the data card. And that means that babies born are going to receive their ID immediately, as happens elsewhere. So that baby when growing up will be identifiable across the various databases. And by 18, if the AEC database is on that national database, the AEC database will automatically go up by that particular voter. In the event that particular voter expires or dies, the same data will cover that person from the electoral roll. So it will eliminate this periodic mass registration where all manner of shenanigans go on and the threats of violence and all those things. It will happen again.
It's one of the things the Electoral Commission puts down as the challenges, where fingers will be pointed between NDC and MPP. But I would like to bring, kindly hold on the line for me, I'd like to bring Mr. Kojo, or Dr. Kojo Asante of the CDD into this conversation. Doc, good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
I may have to drop off. I'm on another conversation.
Okay. Okay, then that's fine. That's fine. So let's go to Zoom right now and speak to Dr. Kojo Asante. He's the Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD. Hello, sir. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning to your viewers.
It's good to see you. It's been a long time. Well, yes. I'll first of all like to, if you've been following the conversation, I hope, get your reaction to what the EC calls its assessment. So
unfortunately not, but
I'll do a summary. I'll do a summary of the EC's, the Electoral Commission's assessment of the 2020 elections before going into the reforms proposed. So the EC talks about the timeliness. They celebrate the timeliness. Hello. Yes. The Electoral Commission celebrates the timeliness of the 2020 elections, that it took them 6 months to conduct both presidential and parliamentary elections. They talk about the fact that this was during COVID and they still managed to go through the COVID protocols and not ensure that the disease is not spread that much. They say that there were fewer or no long queues at the polling stations. They talk about a historical achievement where they say the government of Ghana totally funded the 2020 elections. And we also learn about a reduction in the cost of the 2020 elections. I believe this is what, from $13 per person to $7.7 per person in 2020. This, they say, saved us $90 million or 522 million Ghana cedis. Now, they talk about the challenges without being, arrogant. They talk about the difficulties they faced with rejected ballots, with violence, election-related violence, the manual verification, and as well minors and foreigners being encouraged to go and vote. So this is their assessment. They look at the positives and then they look at the negatives. And then they propose 4 things as well. But I want you to look at the assessment first before we talk about the proposals.
Well, thank you. I think generally we need to acknowledge and commend the EC for navigating the very difficult terrain of COVID. To still be able to complete the compilation of the register. Some of us were skeptical that they will manage to deliver that because of all the challenges that they had to overcome, and within a short period. So I think commendation goes to the staff, a lot of them very, very experienced, who managed to pull that off. And also for the second election running, 2016 was the same. We basically had a very smooth election day process. Materials were delivered, sometime way ahead of time. Most polling stations had completed their casting their ballots because we did add almost about 10,000 new polling stations, and that helped to sort of speed things up. So that I think is significant in many ways, because this has happened, as I said, for the second time running. So it does show that we have made a lot of work, a lot of advances in getting our election day process, to go very smoothly. What is obvious, and also for a second time running, we've had real challenges with the whole results management process. This is after the polls, and particularly during the collation period and the announcement period of the results. So that's where I think the next phase of our work need to be, and we need to try and correct that. If we can correct that, then I think we'll really improve the transparency and the credibility of the elections.
Very well. I'd like to pick your thoughts on this concern that this came up during the 2020 elections regarding the regional collation. This time, the last election was a bit different. From the results moved from what the collation centers, the polling stations, to the collation centers, and there was a regional collation center. Should we expect that to be, the standard or the practice going forward?
So, there are a number of things that have to be fixed. Certainly, the voter registration process. This should be the final time that we compile a new register, and I think that everybody is in agreement. When we came out of Aqua Safari, the Codeo workshop, there was a consensus that the Electoral Commission should work with the NIA to basically consolidate their data. So subsequently, if the Electoral Commission needs to compile register, it just needs to pull from the NIA data. The only field that was missing in the NIA data was at the polling station, which, from all the technical explanations that have been given, should be easy to fix. So I think that that is something that stakeholders, there has to be more consultation and engagement with everybody, the political parties, everybody, for us to see what modalities that we have to put in place to make that possible. On the results management process, it starts all the way from the polling station. You have to start with the completion of the pink sheet. We've seen that there are many mistakes that happen with the pink sheet. So it means that you have to have real training. You have to look at the recruitment very carefully, not just for the electoral officials, but also the polling agents, so that they also can understand what. And we have suggested, and it was part of the recommendation at the Codeo process, that we should be able to get handheld scanners to be able to scan the pink sheet directly. So the pink sheet is posted at the polling station, but to get an electronic process that allows everybody to just get access to the pink sheet as in real time. And I think with handheld scanners these days, with mobile telephony connectivity, you should be able to get most places in Ghana to be able to get these polling station results, into a central database. This is to complement the process. It's not to replace it. So there are very few places where there might be connectivity problems, but within an hour or two, that can also be rectified. So when you move up from that process, then there is the suggestion that what happened in 2020, and it also happened in 2016, is that as we increase the number of polling stations, we increase the number of presiding officers that have to go to the collation center to submit their returns. And that process, always end up being very chaotic. It's not a good process for collation. There are too many people. If you have a constituency with 200 polling stations, then you have 200 presiding officers, sometimes with the assistants and all the equipments and whatever, ballot boxes, heading to one place to do collation. So maybe we should consider the electoral area. But of course, that also has its pros and cons, that you create another level of drama. You might require additional security there, and all of those things. But we need to review that process to see how we can reduce the number of people that need to go to the collation center to do that. And even if we are doing that at the collation center, it has to be displayed, publicly, so that people who are gathered outside can see what's going on, rather than resort to rumor mongering and all kinds of things that create agitation. So we will move up to that process from the collation center to the regional center, and the same process must happen. But whatever happens across the chain, what is critical is that we need to legislate on the recollation process. At the moment, the law allows for recounting. So you can get recounting mandatory once at the polling station. If you want a second one, it's discretionary, and you can take it to the returning officer at the collation center. But there is really no guidelines on recollation. So in some places, somebody is recollating 5 times. Some places it's 2, some places 1. So we need guidelines on the entire recollation process, from the constituency collation, regional collation, and so on. And then we also need guidelines on the correction of results, so that if somebody makes a mistake and you have already gone through the process of completing the summary sheet and the collation sheet, and it has been signed, and you want to correct it, you need rules that tells you how to go about that. So these are the things that we need to learn from 2020 and make sure that there's much more clarity, there's much more transparency along the whole chain of the collation process. And we should not wait to, at the end, at the regional, before we start announcing results. At every point, the results should be announced, and the Electoral Commission should take control over that process, so that everybody can see and acknowledge that official results are announced, and it can be declared at the end. But we shouldn't wait till at the end before we start announcing results formally.
How can both Electoral Commission and political parties go around these 3 challenges which the EC mentions? And these challenges, you would observe, recur in all our elections. Minors, or the claims, minors and foreigners going out to vote, rejected ballots, and electoral violence.
Well, I think as for the minors going out to vote and foreigners, it's really, that's why I think the NIA process is something that we have to consult. It will require a transition. We are not going to get it right immediately. But the more we're able to set up that process with clear guidelines and modalities that satisfies the political parties and all their issues, I think that we will begin to nip that in the bud. Certainly, the communities and the triangulating that with births and deaths and other types of data that now the NIA platform is able to carry should help. But it doesn't mean that people will also not try to cheat. So how you safeguard that process, how you put the modalities to ensure the scrutiny of that process, I think it's important. But that's the way to go. That's where we have to head towards. The issue of rejected ballots, it's not clear. Often when this thing happened after elections, we always try to ask the Electoral Commission to allow us to do some auditing to find out what exactly the problem is, because sometimes you fix the problem, it doesn't address it. So it's always important that you take all the rejected ballots, you do a sample of it, and see what some of the major problems were, or the frequency of the problem, so that you know what exactly the problem is. If it's a design of the ballot, then you can address it. If it's the ink or whatever it is, you can address it. But I don't think you want to make any a policy decision when you have not done a scientific audit of the rejected ballots. We had very, very low rejected ballot in 2016, and it's gone up again. So we need to be able to ask ourselves what the problem is. In 2016, some of it was the design of the ballot. That has changed, and it's supposed to have improved the process. But again, we are seeing some more rejected ballots. And it could be that it's even concentrated in very specific places. So I think you need to do a scientific audit first, and then that should inform the process. And I think your last point was about electoral balance.
Yes.
Yes, and again, at the Codewo process, there was a lot of proposals around, how to deal with election-related violence. One, of course, was linked to closing early, which was the proposal. I think at Codewo they talked about 4 p.m. The Electoral Commission proposing 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at the process over the last 2 elections, by 3 p.m., by 2 p.m., in most places, you would have finished voting. Because, as I said, the number of, between 2016 and 2020, we have increased polling stations by, I think, 18,000 or so. So
Rashid, he's the Director of Research for the NDC. Alaji, good morning to you and hope you're well.
Yes, I am. Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Now, the NDC has been reacting to the proposed reforms by the Electoral Commission. First, I want to get your impressions about the assessment. The EC has assessed itself, looked at what they call the successes, from the timeliness to cost saving to historical GOG, 100% funding, and then they look at some of the challenges which Dr. Asante has just touched on: electoral violence, rejected ballots, etc. What's the NDC's position on the assessment put out by the EC?
Well, again, thank you for having me, and my greetings to all your cherished viewers. But the fact of the matter is this: we've listened and reviewed the speech given by Madam Jean Mensah, and I think you'll recall in our press conference we responded to many of those issues. But the thing that you have to look at is you have to juxtapose whatever the EC is saying to what the reality is on the ground. So let's take the claim one by one. Mm-hmm. The talk about that they've had an unprecedented success in the conduct of the election. When you look at the distribution of even the printing ballots, the fact that we've had ballot papers, these are authentic ballot papers of the EC with the stamp on it in the back. Over 1 million of them found in parts of Ashanti region, and these are documented cases. We have the videos, and we had to go back and had them burned. Okay, and also as Doc mentioned, and I think you mentioned also, the number of rejected ballots. Yes, some improvements were made from 2016 in terms of the printing, the placement, the size, and all of that. What happened this time? Our checks indicate that instead of using the proper internationally recognized ink, the EC staff used normal, ordinary ink pad, which, because of the watery nature of it, seeped through to the other part, so that when you vote and then you fold the paper, because it's so watery, it gets into other parts and it makes it, unable for you to really see what the intention of the voter is, causing, more rejected ballots compared to 2016. But interestingly, from our checks again, a lot of these rejected ballots coincidentally and curiously just happen to be in NDC strongholds. And the numbers will bear it out. When you look at, compared Ashanti region to the northern region, to the upper east, to the upper west, it just does not make sense. Something is not right. We have to take a look at that. And then the issue about savings. I mean, it's really laughable to think that they would say that they saved 7 million.
Hello, Alaji. Okay, so that's Alaji Haruna Rashid, Director of Research for the NDC, and he's been responding to, giving us the NDC's position to the Electoral Commission's assessment of the 2020 elections. Dr. Asante, I want to bring you back in, and I was going to interrogate.
Can you hear me?
I think Alaji is back on.
Alaji is back. Okay, Alaji. Hello, Alaji.
As I was saying, the issues that...
Alaji, we lost you for a bit. You were just about, I think you were concluding on the rejected ballots and moving on to the savings. Hello, Alaji.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to find out your position on the rejected ballots. That from your checks, it's appeared that the NDC might have suffered a lot over there. Was it an audit that the NDC conducted to arrive at that conclusion?
Yes, and we have the numbers to prove that. If you look at it on a regional basis, you would find that looking at, even by percentage levels, when you look at it, you find that Ashanti region compared to the northern region, Upper East, Upper West, and the Volta region, they on a percentage pro rata basis, there's much higher percentage of rejected ballots than you have in in Ashanti region. And we'll be more than happy to provide you with the numbers so that you can see for yourself.
Okay, we can proceed to your next point.
The thing that you have to look at also, very important to look at, has to do with the claim of savings. How do you claim to have saved money from $13 per person to $7 per person when there are other cost items that you have not added into it, and you have temporary workers that have not been paid for 5 months now, and many other things that have not been added? How do they come to that conclusion? It has to be, when you look at the 444 million cities, that was first.
Okay, I think we're having a bit of a challenge with the connectivity to Alaji Haruna Rashid, but he's interrogating the Electoral Commission's claim that it saved, some 522 million Ghana cedis, or $90 million in the elections, and the fact that they reduced by 41% the costs of elections as compared to the 2016 elections. Do we still have him? Are we able to reconnect? Okay. Do we have Dr. Asante as well? Okay, Dr. Asante, I'll come to you, and then I don't know if we can still try and get Alaji, but I'll come to you with one of the things that they're talking about, which is moving to legal backing for the IPAC, the Inter-Party Advisory Committee. This is not a new call. Is it feasible? Do we need to have the IPAC decisions, etc., be binding on the EC?
Yes, it's not a new call. I think we've gone back and forth on the pros and cons of legislating the IPAC. The challenge has always been that you cannot, without the Electoral Commission's acquiescence or acknowledgement, you cannot set up a body whose decision is imposed on the Electoral Commission to implement. And that's why the IPAC has always remained advisory. The challenge, of course, is that the IPAC in the last couple of years, and particularly during the most recent election, has not worked well because of the frosty relationship between the Electoral Commission and the NDC. And the question is, how do we overcome that? Does legislating it resolve the problem? And can you do that within the confines of the Constitution? I think it's still, there's a lot to discuss and grapple upon, but we have the time to do that, and we should really look at the pros and cons, because I apart from making it advisory, I don't see how you can impose any kind of institution onto, unless you change the constitution to impose it on the EC, in terms of the way it carries out its responsibilities. Of course, as stakeholders, we all have an interest, and we can impress on the EC, to consider certain provisions. But unless you change the constitution, I can't see how that's feasible. But I think it's worth exploring, and we just need the right kind of platforms to be able to have this conversation.
Very well. I want us to turn our attention to a proposal by the Director of Elections for NDC, Elvis Ifriankra, on Thursday. What he says is an equitable voting formula that the major parties should have more say than the minor political parties, who have also responded not very pleased with that. But is that fair?
Well, so that's the problem is that, so first of all, what is the IPAC? The IPAC is supposed to be, a body that brings together the parties and other stakeholders. The rest of us tend to be observers of that process. We have said in the past that if this is a stakeholder platform, then you have to bring others in. But so for many years, it has been the parties. The parties deliberate on these issues and come to some consensus. It's a consensus building platform. Now the question about to weight whose opinions should be, more substantive than the other, is to redefine what a political party is. And unfortunately, we have neglected in enforcing the rules around what a political party should be doing. And so we are almost like finding other ways to resolve a problem that we should really be tasking the Electoral Commission to enforce in a very systematic way. Parties are supposed to have certain presence on the ground. They are supposed to comply with certain constitutional provisions and so on. And we don't take those things seriously. So now there's a concern that, these are not really parties, but we have given them all the semblance of that. So I normally don't like us always finding, other mechanisms or instruments to deal with a problem that the Constitution already provides a solution. So like we have done with filing fees. We keep using filing fees with the excuse that, there's going to be floodgates for people to come in, so therefore we should just increase in the filing fees. These things, I think, are not tenable. It distorts the democratic process. So let's do what needs to be done, which is make sure that if you say you're a political party, then you are fully compliant with, the Constitution, and then we wouldn't even have to be dealing with these things.
Okay, I want to read to you the third proposal from the NDC. They say is for the EC to comply with the use of the legally prescribed statement of poll/pink sheet into bracket form 8A and 8B provided for in our election regulations to prevent the omission of BVD entries so as to preserve the ballot accounting process and make it possible to check multiple voting, ballot stuffing, etc. What does the CDD say about this?
So I don't know what the statistics are in terms of the infraction, if there are any infractions as to the field, the BVD field, because you need to be able to record how many people have actually used the biometric verification machine in order for you to check the total number of ballots that are in the ballot boxes. So I think that if I haven't seen the statistics on how many of the polling station or pink sheets actually were missing that information. But that is one of the reasons why I'm saying that the process of dealing with reforms has to include the process of completing the pink sheet properly by the presiding officers, but also even the poll agents understanding all the fields that need to be completed in the pink sheet so that they can also monitor. So I'm unable to, make a judgment on how bad it is or not. But it is a very critical process for ascertaining whether there was multiple voting.
Very well.
That is also a check on fraud, yes.
Very well. Alhaji Rashid has reconnected, thankfully. Alhaji, before we lost you, I think you were interrogating the $90 million savings the EC said they were able to do for 2020 elections.
Correct. Part of the issue is their claim was that they were able to save some 523 million seats from the elections and bringing down the cost per person from $13 to $7.70. Yes. The question that I have is this: how do you come to that conclusion? First, when you have not put in all the expenses that are related to the total cost. So we question that, and the numbers will bear us out. When you take a look at it independently, objectively, you can see that the claim that they make, that Jean Mensa makes, that she saved Ghana 523 million cities, has no basis. It does not hold water. That's one thing. Now, I want to touch on something that you just mentioned. You just talked to Doc with some kind of stamp. And then when you look at the pink sheets, you find that not all the pink sheets had that stamp. So it's impossible to know exactly.
Okay, I think the connection to Alhaji Rashid is failing us again, but he was trying to break down the Form 8A and B matter that came up. I think we'll try and move on if we're able to.
I think maybe if Alhaji can turn off his video.
Yes, Alhaji.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you should turn. Alhaji, kindly turn off your video so that we can sustain a bit of the connectivity we have, because we're really struggling. Yes, Alhaji.
Okay, so my video is off now.
Yes, that's fine. So please, let's do a recap of the concern on Form 8A and B.
Yes, Form 8A and B, when you look at it, the statement of faults, first of all, the EC did not comply with CI 127, okay? And that's, part of the issue that kind of resulted in the multiple voting and then the ballot accounting process where you have ballot staffing going on and all those things. That's an issue, okay? And then when you look at also issues that are related, in fact, on the form itself, there's supposed to be a section there where you are able to put in the number of people who voted biometrically. Because the form did not come in pre-printed with that BVD, section where you can make the notation or capture the number of people who voted biometrically, it is impossible to ascertain the veracity of the claim made by EC that they had 11,000. It just does not make sense. And also, when you look at it, they were supposed to have spent money on facial recognition and buying equipment that is supposed to be for facial recognition. No facial recognition, software or even the hardware was used anywhere. So where are they coming up with this 11,000? There are so many issues that come in that we have to look at. And I want to touch on something that you discussed with Doc about the issue on that has to do with how many people, or I think it has to do with the number of the changes that needs to be made, okay? The changes that needs to be made in terms of representation and, having the legal backing. We have the National Peace Council. It's advisory, okay? It has legal backing. We have the Council of States, okay? It has legal backing and it's advisory. And see, this thing, since 1992, every work that has been done, whether it's with Dr. Afarijan or Madame Charlotte Osei, everything has been consultative without any issues. The only time that we see issues coming up is because of the attitude of Madame Jean Mensah and Boss Monasari. And that is why this issue of even talking about, voting and legal backing is coming up. If we are able to talk to people, talk with respect, listening to one another, this issue would not come up. But when you go and then you have your general secretary even smiling becomes an issue. That someone looks at you, Jean Mensah looks at General Mosquito and says, "Why are you smiling?" Yes, I think the issue is more than just even a frosty relationship. It's about attitude. And you have Boss Manasari making a statement that the NDC is an existential threat to our democracy. That tells you the level of bias that is going on in IPAC.
Is this
one of the reasons why?
Is this why the NDC did not attend the IPAC meetings?
Because when you go there and you can't even smile, they question you about the smile on your face, not to even talk about any proposals or reform issues that you bring up. Even smiling becomes an issue.
Will that be the standard moving forward? Will the NDC be attending?
I'm sorry?
Will the NDC be attending IPAC meetings going forward, or this is I
think let me be very clear. Our boycott of the IPAC meetings is temporary.
Okay.
It is temporary based on the fact that we're waiting for the attitudes to change. When we see science, we see changes coming where we can have a seat at the table and will be listened to, in an objective, impartial manner. But
okay. Gentlemen, I want you to hold on. I want us to take a break. When we come back, I want us to look at the 4 proposals and the way forward. I think there was some additional proposals from the CDD that the EC could look at. But let's take a break right now here on Inside Pages. We'll be back.
Now in Ghana, on Metro TV.
When you grow up, are you going to have a family?
Yes.
And are you going to have children?
Yes.
How many children will you have?
20.
Showing every Sunday evening. Prime time, 5 to 5:30 p.m. with a catch-up on Wednesdays, 4 to 4:30 p.m.
Kids always say what they wanna.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
News reporting does not end because the day is over. Anytime the news breaks, it is our duty as journalists to report it in a timely and accurate manner. It is also our responsibility to seek answers to the lingering questions on the minds of the audience to hopefully bring closure to an unfolding story.
Address me on the parameters of this invitation.
Mr. Speaker, you owe me. I don't want to ever disrespect you, but if you invite me, I will.
Let's interrogate the facts behind the issue, speak to the newsmakers, present the relevant fact in a way that tells the full story. Newsline, an in-depth probe into the news headlines. The news never sleeps. My name is Moro Awadu. Join me from Monday to Friday at 10:30 p.m. on Metro TV for Newsline.
Welcome back to Inside Pages. I want to go back to Alhaji Haruna Rashid. He was making the point that the NDC's boycott is temporary. Is that correct, Alhaji?
Yes, it is correct. It is temporary because I think it's important that people know that NDC has championed our journey to democracy from the very beginning, from 1992, and we have participated in every activity of the EC. In fact, one can say that we are pioneers in making sure that the IPAC came about. So we're not leaving IPAC permanently. It's temporary to send a message out to them that specifically to Madam Jean Mensah and Boss Manasari, that there's the need for an attitudinal change. We all have a stake in this process, and it's important that we have a feeling that whatever that we bring to proposals that we make are listened to. At least they don't have to be 100% accepted, but at least they have to be listened to. But when you go to a table and then you were told that, oh, okay, we've heard you, let's vote. Let's vote, and who is voting? Political parties, so-called political parties that, do not have any national representation, do not participate in the elections, do not have national or regional offices. And I'm not talking about parties like CPP, PPP, PNC, and parties like that. I'm talking about some party called PUP, LMP, parties that you and I have never heard of. And we go there and then we are given equal representation. And what happens? They go around the back and gather all these really non-existent, non-active parties, and their vote is the same as the vote, carries the same weight as the vote of NDC with 137 members of parliament. It just does not make sense.
Dr. Asante has suggested perhaps a re-look at the definition of political parties, but for the sake of time, I want us to move straight to the proposals from the Electoral Commission on the closing time from 5 p.m. to 3 p.m., which the NDC rejects. Also, the proposal to do away with the system of periodic nationwide registration, as well as the proposed one-year-round exhibition system, and building further efficiency by focusing on data entry only at the constituency collation centers. So quickly, Alhaji, let's touch on these.
Let me tell you that using Jean Mensah's own logic, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. From 1992, we've stopped, polls have closed at 5 o'clock. Why bring it back to 3 o'clock? And we've had issues where some equipment comes to the polling station late, and sometimes when they come to the polling station, it is not working. Or in the middle of working, it breaks down. Why take the chance and disenfranchise some people? That is the reason that we oppose the idea of closing the polls at 5 p.m. Keep it open. For any eventualities, people have an opportunity to vote. Secondly, the issue of continuous voting. The continuous voting is already there. Our issue, it's in the law. Our issue is do not do away with the mass registration, because you have issues. The continuous registration, people have to, this is done mainly at the district offices of the EC. People have to travel long distances from their villages to come to the EC district offices. And we think that is untenable if you allow just that to happen and then take away the mass registration. So we say the mass registration should stay, and then still the continuous registration is already a part of, what the law anyway. The same thing with the exhibition. Yes, be able to do the exhibition throughout, but it doesn't have to be just by phone, because not everybody has a smartphone or even a YAM phone. You have to be able to allow people to go there and look. And you see, the exhibition is not just for you to verify that you are on the post, but it also allows this opportunity to get rid of people who are dead, foreigners, minors from the polls. And you cannot do that if, you don't have physical people going to, when you have mass exhibitions.
Very well.
Those are the things that we're looking at.
Very well.
And then on the issue, very important, on the issue
very
of
quickly.
the constituency coalitions, and we think it is a non-starter. Okay. Look at the issues that it raised with the regional coalition that they sneaked into the CI. It is not going to work. It's going to be another place for a whole lot of issues with rigging and all of that. And we do not support that idea at all. Okay. You have to be able to have transparency and accountability, verification and validation, both at the national level and also for the regions to validate and verify the numbers.
Very well. For the sake of time, let me
at the constituency level, and that is it.
Very well noted. For the sake of time, let me bring in Dr. Asante. Dr. Asante, you've touched on some of these proposals, but I'll give you the final word. This is the NDC's position. The MPP has also expressed their position. They agree with the EC's proposals. You've touched on a few of them, but going forward, what can work?
Well, I think, first of all, whatever we do, the fortunate thing is that we do have time. For the next 1.5 years, we should be able to consult, come to some, consensus, and the things that we can all agree to improve, we try and improve them. So I would continue to encourage the NDC, to engage, because it would inure to the benefit of everybody, including the NDC, if those reforms are put in place, and are put in place in time, to ensure that the 2024 election is credible, is transparent. So I will continue that they find other ways to engage, if even meaning bringing some of the eminent group to help sort of address some of the problems, to allow for a platform for engagement. I think that should be the first step. I think the proposal for an early closure is still, for me, I'm persuaded. The statistics are there for 2016 and 2020 to show that in most places we end up, closing early. And if we close early, it can benefit people. Issues of disenfranchisement, we have to look at all the statistics to show if there are any sort of, real issues around that, and then we can look at that. Yes, I agree that there are pros and cons to the electoral area collation process, and even just in terms of the logistics, and then another level of drama that you can have there. We need to look at those proposals.
Very well. These proposals, you say, must be looked at in light of the statistics. We're grateful to you, my guests. I can't mention everybody, but thank you for joining us, Dr. Kojo Asante of CDD, Alhaji Haruna Rashid of the NDC. Earlier, we had Yaboaben Asamoah of the NPP. Thank you also for watching and for your comments. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring them to you. I will do so another time. I'm FRANCISCA KAKRA FORSON. Thank you.
Right.